When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. It changes so quickly.
It does.
Hey, how's your shoulder doing, by the way?
It's good. It's loosely dangling from my. I literally look like if I pulled my shirt up the side, it looked like I took a double-aught buck to my right shoulder.
Yeah, he just had some show some grace to Kyle. He just had shoulder surgery a couple days ago, so he's a warrior doing the podcast with us and popping some Tylenol. Maybe got some liquid cap there going in his wrist. We don't see it. But he's been a warrior on this podcast. I just also want to get your feedback on. We both went to the first inauguration of Whitefish Security Summit, and that was pretty wild couple days. I was like, whoa, there's some high-powered folks in this room that I felt like I was trying to make the JV team in high school. It's just like, whoa, I just felt out of my league. What was your thoughts leaving that summit after we attended that thing for a couple of days?
Well, first of all, I would highly encourage anybody in this industry to definitely go. It was incredibly valuable. I took a whole team. I took my business partner, who's my stepbrother, Mike Darter, and I took one of our guys who does a lot of our. We have a company called Firearms Trainers Association, which we provide the liability coverages for firearms trainers, and we took one of our gentlemen from that, and then we had two guys from the former CAG operators who went and who were going to do some consulting things for us, and it was just really beneficial to get kind of the lay of the land.
Yeah.
We have a lot of clients in the Helio world where they're having trouble getting access to insurance in the commercial market because they're doing things that have never been done before, particularly in counter drones, explosive use of application of drones firing different mechanisms other than just being, a loitering drone or a kamikaze type of drone, but firing, rockets and all types of things. And it's really, you can imagine if you're using drones to deliver explosives, you're not going to walk into your local State Farm office and say, hey, can I get a policy? Right. It's not going to happen. We're going to have to, and so we have a lot of customers in those kind of industries that are poorly served by the commercial market. And so we're building captives for them. And that's the exciting thing for me is all the innovation that's being done out there. And I think next year there's going to be there'll be more of kind of smaller startup type businesses that is seeking to respond to a lot of the DoD requests to innovate now. We're behind times. We saw it in Iran. We've seen it in Ukraine for years now, and we've seen it in many other locations. We're seeing it in Africa as well. There's a lot of opportunity for small businesses and really focal subject matter experts to create viable businesses, but they sometimes just need help and they don't really understand how insurance comes in there, and they may be prevented from and blocked by larger competitors who can quickly get even though it's bad insurance, but they'll be able to produce a deck sheet in order for getting a contract or something like that. And so we can level the playing field with captive insurance by either using fronting carriers or producing their paper for them or writing a particular type of policies that they need to win some of those lucrative contracts. And they're not necessarily lucrative in the startup phase, but because what they're doing is they're essentially auditioning. The DoD is essentially auditioning small mom and pop shops and inventors to innovate. And then they're going to use the large, defense industrial complex to scale that.
Right.
And I don't think there's a lot of secrets about that either. But because of that, the technology and the licensing of that technology to the big defense contractors there's going to be a lot of money. I mean, lots and lots of money. And with that money comes risk. With innovation comes risk. And so we have a program, and I think it'll be important to kind of let people leave this with an understanding of what type of a business is a good candidate for a captive and what type is not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's captives called group captives that are typically they only offer a couple of lines of coverage, and it's usually like they'll cater to a particular industry like auto dealers. Yeah. And they'll say, okay, we're going to do your comp and we'll do your cyber and we'll do your general liability and we'll do maybe garage keepers insurance, and that's all you're going to be able to get. And those are fine if you have problems with those particular lines of insurance. Then there's what's called single parent captives, and that's the majority of what we do at Helio Risk is single parent captives, and that is we build one insurance company to meet all the insurance needs of the parent and its subsidiaries, and so that's a single parent or standalone captive. Then there's cell captives we have our own cell structure called Astra Insurance, and we essentially if a company is too small, in other words, if they have less than $350,000 a year in insurance spend, that's about the minimum threshold to be a single parent captive, unless they're growing quickly and they understand, hey, I'm only at $285,000 a year in my insurance spend, but I'm going to be at 400 in 18 months. And they understand it's going to be longer for the investment earnings on their premium payments to overcome the operating expense, then we can look at that. But ultimately, we then put people next in our cell structure where they're then sharing the operational costs with other captive owners in the cell structure. And then we use it as an incubator to grow them to the point where they can be a single parent captive. But you're owning your own captive insurance company. You're a segregated account of the mothership, which is Astra Insurance. And so those are methods that we can get people in. And so we do the pre-feasibility phase where we do an analysis whether you're a candidate for one of our captive structures or not. If you are, then we present you an engagement letter, and that engagement letter has 3 phases. Phase 1 is the feasibility study that has to be done, managed by us with an outside independent actuarial firm. And we think it's important to have that arm's distance relationship with the actuary because you don't have your finger on the scale, and it makes you a more pleasant regulated entity by the regulators than if you have your captive managers putting their finger on the scale by also providing actuarial services. So we then go through the feasibility study, which takes a couple weeks, and then we go over it with the captive owner, and they go to then phase 2, which is in phase 1, they're all flat fees based on the complexity. And then phase 2, the engagement letter sets forth all 3 phases and what their flat fees are. Phase 1 is feasibility study. Phase 2 is the formation, where we actually build the captive insurance company. We write the policies. We do everything necessary to have it go live and be regulated. Then we file all of that, get it regulated, and that kicks in phase 3, which is the ongoing management. And ongoing management is also a flat fee, and that flat fee is baked into the premium payment that's transparent to the captive owner. And then you have your own insurance company. It has audited financials every year. It has financial performance being reported in board meetings. It pays its taxes. We file the tax returns. We manage all of the back of house operations of the insurance company. And so that's basically the way the captive world works. And so it's a wonderful industry I've enjoyed just because it allows me to do the 3 things that I focus my life on every day, which is I learn something new. So I get to educate myself. And then the other 2 I get to do that I love is enterprise and exercise. Enterprise, I'm working on the business, and then exercise, I'm exercising my mind. I'm trying to take care of myself. And so those are the things that I think of that any business person should be doing. Those 3 things every single day. And I've been doing that, and it helps with transition from one industry to another, and sure. And I've really enjoyed it. But I really appreciate your time today, letting me talk about some. My wife sometimes this is where her eyes are glossy and rolled back in her head when I talk about insurance for more than
like, I'm going to go take a walk.
Yeah.
Take the dog for the walk or hit the river. I was going to ask you from the Whitefish Summit. Go back there again. What was your biggest takeaway from that summit? What kind of hit you in the head and like, whoa?
I think I fooled myself before that, thinking I had access to people in tempo of information that I could get and analyze or have analyzed, and then have it be actionable. And so I have been more diligent with how I'm sourcing my information now, and not being as reliant on traditional sources for that. And
good point.
Realizing that the business that I'm in, I have to have updated intelligence that's not just being packaged from current events. It's actually true analysis. And it was really interesting to me that some of the people there who'd been with the agency for their entire careers. And of course, they're going to work for some of the largest logos in the entire world, and they have value, and information is only becoming more and more valuable. And I think that we are what it made me see also is how much in the business world people are having that intelligence capability to not only analyze it, but then operationalize it and take action on it is more important now than ever before. And it's going to become even more important because with AI, I can come across I can have AI draft me a 30-second summary in anything and sound like I'm the smartest guy on that particular topic. But it's just like when I was growing up, my mom was an algebra teacher. And so she had my algebra textbook had every other right answer in it. If people remember that there was a Saxon algebra one, and it's like now AI gives us a chance. All we know the answer, but we can't show our work. So I think what we're doing is we're all becoming dumber as we use AI because we can amplify problem solving, we can amplify processing of data, but ultimately that's all we can't show our work and how we got there. So I think having people and that's one of the things I try to educate myself on every day is I want to be able to understand how AI got to where it did and not just trust where it wound up. And so, that's, I think, an obligation morally and
good point.
And economically that we have to ourselves and our businesses that we're fortunate enough to be able to do work for is we need to have those types of relationships and networks where we can actually call around and I can call you and I say, what are you seeing? In other words, I know the answer is ultra high net worth individuals are having reputational risk and all that kind of stuff. But if I don't know how that's the answer, sure. But I don't know how to show my work to get there when I'm sitting down with somebody to actually help articulate what that actual risk is. And just scaring somebody into spending money is a really terrible way to go about go about it. It needs to be educating, hand-holding, being a valuable member of their team of advisors. And so I think it's just more critically important than ever to change the way we access our ingestion of artificial intelligence information and analysis that we're getting and be able to have connections with people like yourselves and like, Jeff Crusoe and all the other people that were there who'd had, experience in agency and how to better and obviously Lobo Institute and those awesome people. I want to surround myself with people who can show their work.
Yeah, it was one of one of my favorite conferences just because I'm good friends with Mike Trott, Chris Coleman. We're actually worked with them on a detail, which Mike Trott would later write about in his book, The Protected. And that was kind of cool. I'm like, got a signed copy from Mike in the mail. Like, oh, wow, read it. I'm like, oh, wait, I'm in this chapter. Not mentioned, of course, but Mike and Chris did a phenomenal job working for a royal family down in Southern California about 5 years ago. It was pretty crazy on that whole experience. And I saw Mike's post on LinkedIn probably in December saying, hey, got this summit we're going to do. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, I'm going to fly over there and check it out. And I'm like, whoa. And just people that Mike knew there and Chris knew there and just the high caliber, got SF folks, special forces folks there. I talked to the first ever Delta guy I ever met in my life. I'm like, it's just chill, down to earth, humble guy. I'm like, wow.
I'm sure he's one of the guys we brought, may have been one of the guys we brought with us.
Guy from Arkansas, right?
Yes.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
I just saw him, spent this weekend with him.
Oh, did you?
He came to our shooting facility and went to my business partner, Mike, got remarried. And so he came over for that. And it's good to see him.
Yeah, tell him I said hello. Yeah,
I will. We text all the time. And,
do you?
But I think that's one of the things that I take away, Mark, similar to you, is I came away really excited and concerned about like, okay, I need to step up my game in a couple of these areas and have a better understanding of these things. And I'm really excited about the next one. To have had the inaugural one go so well and have the talent that showed up and attended and interacted. It's just, there's no other way I think you can get that where you can talk to people you're sitting here, the things that are occurring on the Cryon on CNN and Fox News, you have the person literally sitting across from me having a cup of coffee who's in charge of all agency operations for Iran.
Crazy.
For that. And you're just able, based on Chatham House rules, to be able to pick their brain on what their thoughts are on things and be able to do that in a world where they're on a panel and they're not all agreeing with each other necessarily.
Yeah, they weren't. There's some opposing.
It was great to see. And one of the guys, that had been ground branch is a principal now at a private equity firm that focuses on the defense world. And he's talking with somebody who, is 50 levels above him at the agency. And it's like, but they're doing it in a collegial way.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people to take a serious look at attending that conference. It was it was really beneficial for me, and I felt helps my clients in the insurance world, because we're able to recognize the importance of getting really good intelligence information, so we can anticipate and meet their needs, and also as an insurance dork, the intersection of current events, global, and geopolitical risk intersect, and I think
They
people are
do.
starting to see that
Oh
the
yeah.
different types of insurance programs that captive insurance industry can generate can solve a lot of the problems for businesses that were created by the recent events that are still ongoing.
Yeah. In fact, I talked to a couple, I won't name names because they're conversation between hallways and walls, but they were pretty accurate on their prediction of what was going to happen. And I'm like, whoa, he called that. Dang. I'm like,
Yeah.
just kind of watching everything unfold and seeing which direction it's going over there in Iran. They're flying back and forth. I think they're all in Switzerland right now, trying to
Yeah.
get along, I guess.
Yeah.
Make
To be a
magic
fly on that
happen.
wall, right?
Yeah, only to be a fly on the wall. But yeah, the conversations were rich, and they weren't allowing recordings in that conference at all due to the sensitivity of the conversations and who was given the talks and whatnot. And I was
Well,
like, yeah,
I think the value for that comes from the return, the ROI on that
hmm,
is it's hard to measure,
yeah,
because when people can speak freely and knowing they're not going to be videoed,
yep,
and their comments aren't going to be attributed to them on X, or TikTok video, or
right,
Instagram or Facebook or whatever, then you're getting unvarnished, real someone who's a true subject matter expert. And I think that's one of the things in our world now. There's a book
hmm,
out that came out a couple of years ago I read that was concerning, that was called the Death of Expertise.
mm.
And it's essentially that now, because of people have such ready access to information, they think that they don't believe experts as much. And I've
Makes
always had
sense.
an attitude of, I don't negotiate with experts. If I determine if you are an expert, uh, and I will not negotiate your price with you, because I want the actual expert.
Wow.
And so when I do that with all my vendors, I do that with people in my own people who do services for my businesses. I don't want to hire somebody who's learning on the job. I want to hire somebody who truly has the expertise. I'm paying for their time and their
Hmm.
thoughts and their advice to me. So I'm not going to negotiate that. I'm going to pay them what they
Hmm.
want.
Whoa, that's profound. As Brad Lee would say, that's dropping bombs on his podcast. I'm going to be on his podcast July 12th in Vegas.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I was in the studio, and then something happened. I wasn't able to make it, and had some caught something traveling, whatever.
Yeah.
And I met him, met the crew. He got a huge office in Las Vegas, but yeah, he's got over 1 million listeners.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is it's fascinating. The podcast world is absolutely fascinating, and I can learn a lot, and it's entertaining and informative as well. But I think it doesn't end there. It
Hmm.
doesn't end at all. It's just that this is a constant daily thing we have to do, is vet the information that we're being told, and vet and have recognize that the people who will have the most value in the future are going to be
Hmm.
those that can have a better understanding of how AI got them to the answer that they've now taken
Right.
ownership of. And that is an ongoing responsibility that I think we should all really take seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I've listened, I'm on YouTube quite a bit, just scrolling on, I got a few ones I listen to, and I'm like, huh, make thought provoking conversations, what they are. And then, you know, I think that's why podcasts are exploding over media consumption right now. That's what my podcast guy told me. I'm like, what, really? Oh yeah.
Well, there's an
Podcast.
authenticity to
Yep.
them, and you're removing degrees of fluff from
Yep.
the person who actually you want to be hearing from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's real value in that. And I also think it can be dangerous, because
Mm-hmm.
just simply saying, "Hey, I'm just asking questions," is not a responsible, formula for learning.
Mm-hmm.
You also, the whole "prove me wrong" is not a philosophy. That's not a stoic philosophy that anybody would
Mm-hmm.
ever espouse to. We need to accept the responsibilities of the
Mm-hmm.
information that we put out there, and its
Mm-hmm.
accuracy, and show our work, and how we're verifying. Someone can rely on what I'm telling you. It's not because I'm just regurgitating and directing AI to give me a complicated answer. It's I actually understand, what the ramifications, the second, third, and fourth order of effects of the advice I'm going to give you. I've thought about them. I've gained them out. I've used AI to amplify my work and to model out some of the problems that we might encounter. But at the end of the day, I'm taking ownership of that, and I think there's just so much content out there, and I think it's so good to have. I mean, the first thing is seeing that you have a six-figure number of subscribers. That's a pretty good indication. But then again, you want to know who those subscribers are.
Right.
And because if all those subscribers are in the security world and everything like yours are, that's a good sign. That's doing the things to vet the sources of your information that you're relying on and evaluating someone's expertise, which I think is an ongoing responsibility that I have. And so that is, I think, is something that gets left aside as people just take at face value something that they're seeing online. And now with the AI, every year I use the Super Bowl as my measuring stick for the AI, how it can, the deep fakes and so forth. And it's really changed. It's significantly harder and harder to distinguish.
It is. You can't tell anymore. It's gotten so smart as far as all the digital algorithm that can take place. Kyle, where can people find you? I know you got a website. You're probably on LinkedIn.
So I'm on LinkedIn. You search Kyle Sweet. It should help you find me. Heliorisk.com is the website. HELIORISK.com. And then CCW Safe is our concealed carry legal membership plan, and that's ccwsafe.com. And then for the legal employee benefit legal insurance, which is U.S. Legal Services, it's uslegalservices.net. And we're excited to be launching every policy that we sell that it's for legal wellness, essentially. So we pay all the legal expenses associated with certain types of claims or when things arise, when you need a will, when you've had a loved one involved in with family law matters, criminal matters, civil matters, landlord-tenant disputes, all kind of the basic kinds of things that can cause anxiety. We're launching in the next few weeks an AI legal assistant that's been built. It's not just a vibe code or a Google search or one of those AI search engine tools. It's a tool that every policy comes with a legal assistant that will not only help you better understand the policy that you have and answer your policy questions, but also legal questions that are non-advice related. So you will have in your back pocket with every policy a legal assistant that will give you the answer to any legal question you have, and it's jurisdictionalized based on where you are. And then that launches in the next week, and then within the next few weeks, we have a student plan for people like myself who have kids in college, for Title IX investigations of, sexual inappropriate behaviors and academic integrity related issues and academic dishonesty and AI use. And those things are all covered by a student defender plan that we have that we're really excited about. So you can find uslegalservices.net. Those will be launching over the next few weeks. And we also do CDL plans and family defender plans and things of that nature. So those are the keys, and that we love to talk to people about these things. And if anybody was curious about captive insurance, reach out to me. My email is ksweet@heliorisk.com, and we'd be happy to talk more about it and direct some resources your way or just have a conversation.
Yeah, thanks. We'll put that all. My team will put that all in the notes on the podcast, so you don't have to write that all down, folks listening. So just stand by, and that'll be noted on the podcast page when it's formatted. If you're listening to the podcast, please give us a thumbs up, make comments on YouTube. That helps with the algorithms. And also, we're also on all the podcast platforms. So make sure you give us a 5-star rating on those, Apple especially, and Spotify, if you can do that. And that helps with the algorithms and pick it up and move it around a little bit. And thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on YouTube. That's our biggest thing. And I'm going to give you guys a little hint. If you want to really be searched within AI on Google, you need to make sure you are on your shorts with YouTube, because that is where the AI is categorizing you, and that's where people are finding you now is YouTube Shorts is the AI magical wizard, I guess. So I learned that not too long ago. So thought I'd share that knowledge with the fellow YouTubers out there trying to make an impact in the industry. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Kyle, for your time. And
thank you, Mark.
What a rich conversation we had, and be ready for lots of notes. We'll catch you guys all in the next episode of the Fearless Mindset Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. and we'll see you in the field.